so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma.
The Blessed One disciple,
who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.
now let us chant pay preliminary homage to the Buddha.
Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and perfectly enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and perfectly enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and perfectly enlightened One.
Now let us chant the recollection of the Buddha.
A good word of the Blessed One's reputation has spread as follows. He, the Blessed One, is indeed the Pure One, the perfectly enlightened One. He is impeccable in conduct and understanding, the accomplished One, the knower of the world. He trains perfectly those who wish to be trained. He is teacher of gods and humans. He is awake and holy.
Now let us chant the supreme praise of the Buddha.
The Buddha, the truly worthy One, endowed with such excellent qualities, whose being is composed of purity, transcendental wisdom and compassion, who has enlightened the wise like the sun, awakening the lotus. I bow my head to the peaceful chief of conquerors, the Buddha who is the safe, secure refuge of all beings. As the first object of recollection, I venerate him with bowed head. I am indeed the Buddha's servant. The Buddha is my Lord and guide. The Buddha is sorrow's destroyer, who bestows blessings on me. To the Buddha I dedicate his body and life, and in devotion I will walk the Buddha's path of awakening. For me there is no other refuge. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. By the utterance of his truth, may I grow in the Master's way. By my devotion to the Buddha and the blessing of this practice, by his power, may all obstacles be overcome.
Now let us chant the resurrection of the Dhamma. The
way of the Sangha. For me there is no other refuge. The Sangha is my excellent refuge. By the utterance of this truth, may I grow in the Master's way. By my devotion to the Sangha and the
tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. Somebody sent me a message today that this was a particularly special full moon because the moon is at its closest point to the earth, so it's bigger than usual. But you won't see it because it's going to be a cloudy night. But anyway, they say also it's a good night for spiritual practice and a good night for spiritual insights. So stick around. We're going to be practicing till midnight. So on these moon days, this morning the bhikkhus brought their precepts to mind. Siladhara bring their precepts to mind. Samaneras, Anegarikas, Anegarikas. And these are important things to reflect on. These skillful, virtuous guidelines that the Buddha laid down for us. And it's all about karma, you could say. Sort of doing those things by body and speech that are going to have a bad result. And because, the way we do act and speak, it does have its effects. And if we want to really develop our meditation practice, then, these guidelines are important. So in Dhamma practice we talk about things that hinder insight. We talk about these 5 hindrances: sense desire, aversion, restlessness and worry, sloth and torpor, doubt. And the conditions that give rise to these are, sort of not using our body and speech in skillful ways, and also, a lack of sense restraint. So if you want to have a more calm way of being, then these things are important. So, during this Vasa time, we have time for personal retreat, time to turn our attention more inward, and bring more awareness towards personal experience, we say, of mind and body. And this is good in terms of really begin to recognize these hindrances. If we don't look inward, we never really understand them. And if we're not aware of them, then we'll keep going. So the importance of this time we do have time for meditation, learning from these experiences. And, it's hoped that maybe we get moments where these hindrances, sort of go into abeyance a bit, and we experience a more quality of peace. Peace that can come when we're more still in the present moment, and those hindrances are not overwhelming the mind. And that's good. Good to have that experience in meditation. We're sitting, because this gives us some, say, incentive to continue with meditation practice. And insights that can come from when the mind has a sense of peace and clarity. But sometimes those insights seem to sometimes disappear when the hindrances come up again. But at least we remember we tasted something. Yeah, taste of a mind that's peaceful in the present moment and doesn't have to go anywhere. It's content with just one in-breath, one out-breath, or a leg movement on a walking path. So maybe for some people that's the first taste of a sort of real peacefulness of heart and mind. But then we come out of retreat, and then we have to do work, follow schedules, interact. And maybe that's not so peaceful. Because, we start moving and interacting, maybe this stirs up the hindrances again. But this is also our work, isn't it? How to recognize them when we're doing things or talking, and not feeding them, and keeping the practice going of letting these things go. In one way, you can say, the practice is going well because we've had some nice experiences with meditation. But also, maybe to reflect, the practice is also going well if we have some peacefulness when we're doing things, when we're interacting. So this is really the fulfillment of practice. It's not just to find the peace and stillness, but find the peace in activity. And in some ways that could be more challenging. But things can come up in the mind when we're doing things, when we're in a conversation, interacting. But, what the sitting meditation can bring about is to recognize some of these hindrances as they come up in our interactions and with what we're doing. Help us to be more aware as things arise. And, to me, this is indicating more sort of broadness of awareness, an awareness that embraces both outer and inner. So, meditation, retreat, more inner, but not to lose that when we come out of retreat, when we relate to the outer, but keeping our awareness of the inner. This is talking about more broadness of awareness, not different from, say, just getting attached to an inner peace that comes when we're still, and not getting lost in external things and losing the inner awareness when we're doing activities and interacting. And in this way maintaining sort of peacefulness, awareness through our different activities. So take something like speech, for instance. So the Buddha, in one sutta, one of his teachings, was talking to his son Rahula. And he asked Rahula, what is the purpose of the mirror? And of course, Rahula says, yes, it's to see one's reflection. And the Buddha then said to Rahula, well, this is what this practice is about inner reflection. In terms of, say, speech, if before you say something, you're aware that it's not going to bring a good result, not just for yourself but for others, then try to restrain from saying that. If you're in an interaction with somebody, you're in a conversation and things are boiling up a bit, unwholesome states are coming, and the conversation is not going a good way, how to finish that conversation in a skillful way. Please, can we come back to it later? Then sometimes after we've had a conversation with somebody or we've had some sort of interaction, we notice the effects of that on our mind. The mind stirred up, in a wholesome mind state. So that tells us maybe next time to be a bit more careful with our speech. Our speech is such an important and probably the most challenging of the precepts to keep. It's so easy to get lost in some sort of maybe a bit unskillful conversation or backbiting, making fun of. But these things have the karmic result. And we can't, it's not an overnight practice, but this is how we learn. Maybe first from seeing the results of it. Then as a more we're seeing things arising in the mind as we're talking. And then even more refinement is really to know before we say something. Where the mindfulness comes in there. And the same goes as the Buddha also taught in terms of bodily action and mental action, the same sort of principles. So this is this gradual training we have, training ourselves to be skillful in our actions by body and by speech. So when we're doing something physically, when we're sweeping leaves or doing some sort of job around the monastery, sometimes we don't feel bored with it, sometimes we don't, we feel averse towards it. These tendencies come up. But, do we stay with it? Are we going to give in to them or stay with it? Are we going to be a slave to the hindrances or rise above them? The Buddha's advice, based on his own practice, he said, if I'm walking, when I was when I was doing these practices, if I was walking and fear came up, I still carry on walking. If I was sitting and fear came up, I still carry on sitting. If I was lying down and fear came up, I would still carry on lying down. So this is the Buddha's, encouragement to stay with things, to learn. And how sometimes certain insights can come from this. So we might start an activity, feel quite bored, averse towards it, but we stay with it. And then suddenly disappears. We feel quite content with what we're doing, quite peaceful with what we're doing. And this reminds me of also of a story. One of the well-known Thai elders, his name was Lumpur Khao, and he was on his meditation walking path, and an elephant came to his walking path. So fear came up for him. But he was, remember the Buddha's teachings, even though the fear was there, he carried on walking. Carried on walking up down his walking path, and the elephant watched him. But then the fear went, and he felt this sense of joy come up. And he even had the urge to go and hug the elephant. But he was wise enough to think that maybe that's a bit too extreme. But he said from the experience, he had quite a profound insight. Now I don't know the total nature of his insight, but at least I would guess the hindrances went into obedience because he was being mindful. He was experiencing fear, but he was being aware of it and being with it, and then disappeared. Maybe not such a profound experience, but I had an experience of when you really stay with something in the present, how it can delay the hindrances, especially with a very life-threatening situation where fear comes up and you stay with it. And my experience was when I was walking in mountains in Slovenia. And I was invited to join a group of people. And being my trainer's a monk, not to always want the best equipment, the best things. I didn't have a particularly good pair of walking boots. In fact, they were really just plimsolls with a bit of ankle support. So we set off walking up the mountain in Slovenia, Triglav it's called, the biggest mountain in Slovenia. And it's been quite a cold winter, so there's still snow up there. So I'm walking along this ridge, and my shoes don't grip, and I slid down, probably about 20 yards or so, not so long. Scraped my bottom a bit, but I survived with just a few scrapes, because, these walking shoes, work trainers didn't really grip very well. Then we got higher up the mountain. We came to a place where there was snow, thick snow, on a ridge, and on one side, the snow, sort of, the land disappeared. There was snow, and then the land disappeared. And for me that was fear. And at first I just I stopped dead with the fear, because I just thought, recently been down a snowy slope. And at first not wanting to go ahead because of fear of slipping. Anyway, the people with me were very considerate, and they devised a technique to help me get across this ridge safely. So one person went ahead and made deep footprints for me to follow. Another one gave me his clip-ons on my walking shoes to help with the gripping. So I set off walking. I managed to push through the fear and walk. And believe me, my mind didn't wander. And yeah, what happened after so many paces, the fear went. I felt this sort of joy come up. And just being really focused and mindful, staying with the present moment. Yeah, the fear went and the joy came up, and I didn't slip. Yeah, that didn't feel like dancing on the ridge though. It was a joy or anything. But it was an experience of when you stick with something, stay with it. These things can lose their power over the mind: fear, restlessness, aversion. If we're willing to practice being with them, being mindful of them. Or maybe something to consider when we're doing things around the monastery. These hindrances will come up, but maybe if we stay with it, maybe activities that we once didn't enjoy so much now become a nice, peaceful, enjoyable activity. I've shared another story before from when I was in Anagarika. And first time I had in my life to clean toilets. And, I was given the morning chore, clean the toilets. And, first going into it, just wanted to get it done, get it out of the way. And the experience of that is not a very happy one. If you're doing something to get it done, thinking about getting it done quick to get to breakfast, doesn't really bring anything sort of, good up in the heart. Anyway, considering this, I decided to put a bit more attention into doing a good job. And things like, shining things up, shining the taps up. Really putting some kind of attention with the attitude, trying to make it nice for the people who are going to use it. So rather than just doing it, get it done, giving more attention to how to do it well. And then I actually began to more enjoy cleaning the toilets, because the attitude was different. There's a teaching the Buddha gave about sort of the basis for success. And maybe from a Dhamma point of view, success is how to bring about a wholesome state of mind, a more focused, hindrance-free state of mind. That would be success. From a more practice point of view. And the four things the Buddha said support that success is chanda, having a wholesome desire. So, like with the sinks, the toilets, having a desire to do a good job, to make it good for the people who are going to use it. Really, putting effort into doing that job. Citta is, putting your heart into it, really focusing on it. Not doing it half-heartedly. And last one will be Mangsa. Investigate, how can you do this well? So this is a sort of encouragement the Buddha would give to things that can bring about, doing a good job and a good result from it. Not just in terms of the external, but also in the quality of life. as opposed to doing things half-heartedly to get out of the way, to get onto something more pleasant. So it's about, again, staying with something, isn't it? So this whole training, the Vinaya, and the way we do things in the monastery is all also supporting the practice that, lessens these hindrances and brings more peace and clarity to all our activities. This is what we're inclined towards. But yeah, first we have to, experience a few difficulties, a few difficult mind states, these hindrances. We've been, maybe before we come to practice, we've been given lots of say, energy and power, or we've created certain habits. So, first it's bit of patient endurance. But if we do reflect on what we're doing, in terms of, just our offering, the things we do, what we do for the monastery, we can reflect. The monastery is supporting our practice to give something back, to support the monastery. And even though, we're experiencing maybe, negativity to what we're doing, if we reflect skillfully, this will really allow the negativity to lose its power, because we're not getting caught up in it. All the restlessness, to go and do something else, back in the 60s, we used to have this popular song, and I think it was based on a bit of making fun of the English work ethic. And it's about some people doing some work, and then the words of the song were, "And we were getting nowhere, and so we had a cup of tea." And then they did a bit of it, and they said, "And we were getting nowhere, and so we had another cup of tea." The song is punctuated with "another cup of tea." This is sort of what it can be, restlessness and boredom. Do something else. So this is something for us to practice, really, these guidelines from our patimokkha or our precepts, bringing up skillful reflections, and hopefully lessening these hindrances. And it is quite a nice experience to do something that you used to find not very pleasant. Then you do it, and suddenly you find it a pleasant experience because the resistance, the hindrances are gone. Doing something that once you wouldn't like, that now it's okay, like clean the toilet. the thing also, even with not just physical activity, but, if we have to do something that requires more thought and thinking, like planning something. And it is also how different it is when you have a more clear mind, how solutions come quicker. And this is like the Brahmin who came to the Buddha, and he asked the Buddha, how is it that sometimes I remember the chanting, but sometimes it's difficult to remember it? And the Buddha said, well, because sometimes the mind has hindrances. When the mind doesn't have hindrances, then you remember better. And I don't think it's only memory, but it's also, I think, like intelligence, the ability to, more intuitive understanding of something can come about, and the mind's not hindered. So, many benefits. Mind without hindrances is a peaceful mind of well-being, gives rise to insight, and many other sort of useful qualities. So it's worth recommending to sort of bear with the hindrances and work with them, learn their skill, letting them go. Great benefit from that. So, it's full moon day. Now reflect on our precepts, and opportunity now for some meditation practice till midnight. And yes, if we can, all come back here about 11:30, so we can at least sit together for the last half an hour. And the bollards won't go up until after midnight. People like to stay on. It won't go up at the usual 9:30 time. So, may I offer these thoughts for your reflection this evening?